We all like our food, don't we? June 18th is World Sustainable Gastronomy Day, triumphing local cuisine using natural resources without waste, how the food is grown, how it gets to market and onto our plates. And what you're seeing right here are some of UNESCO's 36 creative cities of gastronomy, all highlighting their sustainable food culture. Welcome to Kaleidoscope, where we are positive, daring, different. Ahead on our show is artist Mahen Shanmugam, aspiring astronaut carving the De Silva, and some tips on growing our forex reserves from Arshad Ismail. A massive thank you to our lovely partners on the show, Srilanka Live, CDB and The Daily Morning. If you like Kaleidoscope, subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.
You can now start a CDB iDeposit digital fixed deposit and experience a range of special benefits from CDB.
Looking back at the week that was on CDB Snapshot with a positive start. Sri Lanka will continue preferential access to the EU market through GSP Plus until the end of 2025. Interestingly, while 87% of Sri Lanka's current exports are eligible for tariff reductions under the GSP Plus program, only 62% make optimal use of the preferential market access. Sri Lanka's poverty surges from 4 million to 7 million in 2023, with 31% now living in poverty. The world's largest kidney stone, 13.37 centimeters long and 801 grams, has been removed at the Army Hospital in Sri Lanka. 4 Sri Lankans are in the Asian Scientist 100 magazine 2023. Kaleidoscope's own guest columnist Rohan Pethiagoda and Dr. Asha Divoth, Chaturanga Ranasinghe and Ashini Savinda. A new UN report finds that almost 9 out of 10 people hold fundamental biases against women. Serbian tennis powerhouse Novak Djokovic becomes the oldest ever French Open champion at 36. An American slow jams DJ creates his own country, names it Slojamastan, becomes its sultan, all because he ran out of countries to visit.
You focus on your goals. We will take care of the risks. Srilanka Life.
Welcome to Srilanka Life News Capsule. Sri Lanka's forex reserves dipped drastically to $1.7 billion in September 22. However, it has been showing signs of improvement, with reserves growing to nearly $3.5 billion in May this year. This may be negated somewhat with the lifting of the import ban on some 240 items last week, which will push our import bill up by about $200 million. So, the panacea is to prop our foreign reserves. Associate at Frontier Research, Arshad Ismail has some tips. Arshad, we've been relying on our exports to prop up our foreign exchange reserves for some time now. But given the looks of things, our exports are not doing too well, especially in the apparel sector. How do you think we should prop up our foreign exchange reserves?
So recently we've seen tourism come up, right? We've seen the recovery there. We've seen worker remittances improve, coming into monthly averages of around 400 to 500 million. So those inflows have been coming, and also one factor that a lot of people don't see is that our imports have contracted a lot, right? It's so low that it's at levels of where it was during 2010, if you look at non-fuel imports. So maybe in the long term, what we can do is we can attract definitely foreign direct investments. Like you said, exports have been going down, but long term, we should take some measures to improve that, right? Maybe we could look at diversifying. Now, we've been into the apparel sector, the tea sector. We've been too reliant on that for a long, long time. So maybe it's time that we diversify a little, maybe even diversify our market.
You mentioned imports, that our imports are very low at the moment.
Yes.
But now there is talk of imports being, bans being lifted. What would happen then to the status quo?
One thing that we've seen is when we look at other countries that were at crisis, even though restrictions have been taken taken off, you don't see a big surge in demand because given inflation, given cost of living, people are not really ready to import yet. I think people have got used to this kind of lifestyle. So it's not that, just because the restrictions are taken off, you will see imports soaring so high, right? It would be a gradual increase, a little by little increase. So that, yes, can bring down the reserves to a bit low.
You also mentioned diversifying. Where should we diversify and what are the challenges we may face in diversifying?
Simple example that I can give is maybe we can plug in with the growth of India. India is an economy that is growing really fast according to World Bank statistics. So why don't we also connect with our neighbor? Maybe, for example, if they are exporting, let's say they're exporting, let's say a motor vehicle. Why don't we plug in and, let's say we manufacture the tires for that. So along with their growth, we would also have some sort of thing. Something like that could definitely help.
Growing foreign remittances, FDIs, and also our tourism. Very briefly, what are the challenges that you foresee?
Now, we see our reserves going up and up and up, but what people don't see is that we are not repaying our debt. The moment we start, I think there is the ACU debt and also the Indian credit line due in the next maybe few months or maybe during the next year. So once those start getting repaid, right, reserves can go down. And also there could be a hit into FDIs given that there is political instability. Right? The main reason why FDIs hasn't been coming during the last couple of years is because of the crisis. So all of that can cause delays in terms of that.
As we turn to our markets this week, the Colombo stock market saw the ASPI return to the 9,000 point level due to improved sentiment. The prospect of lower interest rates boosted the all-share price index by 5% with average daily turnover levels surpassing 2 billion rupees on Wednesday. Oil prices dropped below $70 per barrel as Saudi Arabia's production cut had little effect and Russia continued its supply to Asian markets at discounted rates. Gold prices, meanwhile, held steady at $1,950 per ounce as the US dollar weakened. There's a killer whale on the loose. Dozens of orcas attacked boats near Gibraltar, pointing probably to a traumatized matriarch killer whale named White Gladys. She is inadvertently teaching other orcas to target and destroy human vessels. At the 76th Tony Awards, which recognizes achievements in Broadway productions, the red carpet sizzled. A century ago, the idea of us being able to even explore the vastness of space seemed like an impossibility. Today, we envision the idea of humans being able to live on other planets, a vision that is brought even closer to reality by researchers like Kavindhi De Silva, who aspires to be the first Sri Lankan to terraform Mars. Kavindhi is a graduate from the International Space University, is a space educator and space public relations and investor relations professional. Your interest in space was kindled when you saw a photograph of an astronaut when you were 6. Why space? What is it that excites you?
I think there are main 3 reasons why I chose space. One is the curiosity factor. I was a curious kid from the start, and just wanting to know the unknown kept me pushing towards pursuing space. Being part of a global mission or something that's bigger than myself also made me really motivated to be part of this space industry or the space world. And also at the end, to think how much of an impact that can bring down to Earth and to the people is the sole dedication to be part of this whole thing.
So you first got interested in astronomy and then into space, of course. Now, both areas give you very little scope in Sri Lanka's education system where you have been studying, and also career-wise when you're in Sri Lanka. How are you going to overcome that?
I think astronomy is what our culture, maybe all the religions that are also what we can see here in Sri Lanka, they have a basis of astronomy, and that's the backbone for us to go to space, I would like to put it that way. And because it's so close to our culture and we have pioneers of astronomy and space such as Sir Arthur C. Clarke, that was a bit of a push for me to, okay, this should be my path to go to space. And Little did I know, after a few years pursuing my undergraduate studies and then going to my master's, I realized that space is not just astronomy, but it is a good start. How I overcame that obstacle of just starting from astronomy, but then how did I maneuver myself through, is because we did not have any form of education or any form of engagement towards space. I wanted to start things. For example, the astronomy club in my school, we didn't have one, but I thought maybe we can create one so that we can collaborate with other schools and other institutions that have these opportunities locally, and bring things forward. And when I realized that, that's when I created opportunities for myself, but also for others. And that pushed me forward, that I could take others with me and not just me to go to space.
So do you think space has solutions to improve life on our planet?
I know for sure that thanks to the studies that I've done, there are so many things from space that you can come back to Earth and use. And I think starting from communication satellites to observation satellites to remote sensing. I mean, even right now we are connected to space, if not every day, every hour. The phone that we use is part of space technology. And if you want to know if it's going to rain the next day, that is space too. We have a lab in space that we call the International Space Station, where we find out many things, where we try to do things to help people live in microgravity. And there are so many spin-offs from that technology that we can use here down on Earth, especially in developing countries or in the global south, where people's lives can be much bettered, or even the technology that spin-offs from space technology. And I think there is about 60 to 70% technologies that we use from space that have not been used here on Earth. And that is just such a massive benefit that we are still exploring.
There are few women in the area of space study, let alone going into space. But now that you're in it, what changes would you like to see to engage more women in the field?
Going to space shouldn't be that scary. It should be just like, do you want to become the president of the country? Do you want to become an engineer? But hey, why not be a space engineer, a doctor, a space doctor? Right now, there are so many job opportunities out there in space. You just have to put space before the job, and the job is there for you. That's definitely what I would like to see, taking more opportunities in the education, just trying to challenge yourself more and the people around you, and convincing your support system that there is something out there for you, and being a woman should not stop you from that.
He dances, he performs, he meditates, and he brings calm. He's also emotive, he's reflective, and he's serene. He is the god of beginnings. I'm at the Barefoot Gallery intrigued by Ganeshism 5, an art form that has revolved around the ancient Vedic philosophy of self-realization. As you can see, I'm surrounded by some of the most beautiful paintings of Ganesha that I've ever seen. As for the artist, Mahen Shanmugam, each time he puts paint on canvas, it's a new beginning. And here they are, all those new beginnings. And he's been having these epiphanies for over 30 years. Mahen's work is about deep truths, spirituality, and the deity being a mirror to the soul. What is it that actually inspired you to do all this?
It's the form of Ganesha, I guess. The fact that it's a formless energy that I'm trying to create into form. So, and it's also the symbolism behind everything that sits behind Ganesha. Deep cosmic significance.
What are the fascinating, say, elements that you have found out about Ganesha?
Well, the process of painting itself is quite a meditative process for me, and it's one that brings about this sort of single-minded focus which takes me away from the rest of the world. It's a very addictive kind of thing. And that's why I do it. I'm just drawn to it.
What does Ganesha do for you?
It takes me away to another place, to put it simply.
So, as we wind up the week, don't forget, sustainable gastronomy is the secret to doing good for yourself and for the planet. See you next week.